Alrighty, one more video before we cut our quits today. And this one's going to be a bit longer, but it's one of my more controversial opinions about self-publishing in general. You'll hear from a lot of people with vested interest in how self-publishing goes. That one of the things you cannot do on your own as a self-publisher is the covers. That you have to get a professional cover done to see the difference. And there's a lot of weight behind that statement because there is a marked difference between a cover that's professionally made and a cover that's amateurishly done. But I think that that's not a nuanced approach to the way covers are designed and what certain covers do for certain types of books. I'm going to show you guys what I mean by highlighting the 6 books that I have from one author to show you just kind of the variety and stuff like that of kind of what's going on, and talk about what cover design is. And we're going to start with one of the most, because I write YA, one of the most kind of widely accepted good YA books, and that is Looking for Alaska by John Green. First things first, your cover is going to get ruined in traditional publishing because they're going to do stuff like this to it. There is no reason to have an award sticker that you can't take off of a cover when it could live right here and take up the same amount of real estate. This is what they do to your books in traditional publishing. I hate it. I hate how they wreck books. The one I'm reading now, The Hate You Give, Angie Thomas, I think it is, had like 5 on the art, which is supposed to be this minimalist girl hiding behind a sign, saying, the book title and stuff like that. And it was really pretty and beautiful, and they ruin it. So this is the first thing you get to save your books from, is the lack of stickers getting put in your books. But I want you to look real carefully at Looking for Alaska by John Green. What is this cover? This cover is smoke. You can't even tell what the smoke's coming from. I know it's supposed to be kind of reminiscent of the cigarettes that are used in the book. Spoiler alert. No, I don't believe in spoiler alerts. Forget that. It's supposed to be reminiscent of the cigarette smoke, but if you look carefully, it's probably from a candle because of how it's like really focused at like what would be a wick point right about here on the picture and stuff like that. So you have a black screen, which I'm telling you anyone could set up in their basement with a piece of black fabric, a candle, HD photograph of the smoke after you've blown it up rising, and then you have simple block font with an outline to tie these 2 elements together, and John Green's name. And then New York, what is it here? Yeah, New York Times bestseller, that kind of thing. This is a paperback. I'm sure the hardcover looks different, that kind of stuff. Everybody knows this book when they see it. And it is one of the simplest aspects, like representations for what's happening inside the book that anyone could do. I'm positive anyone with a decent smartphone and some creativity could make this exact cover, minus the badge on the front from the award that it won. You could make this cover just as easily. What sold this book for a lot of the reasons was the Vlogbrothers and their kind of back and forth and audience building on YouTube that kind of drew people to the book once they had it published traditionally. That was their kind of marketing. And this was the book. But anyone could make this book, and it would just make this book cover, and it would be just as meaningful. And that's what I kind of want to talk about, is if you can do the things that need to show up on your cover to make your book meaningful, then you can kind of get away with making your own cover. And you don't need a professional cover. You should be doing your best, and you do have to recognize that the artistic mindset that's required for like this kind of design is different from the artistic mindset that goes into writing. This is like imaging and like placement and all that kind of stuff, but this is simple. Anyone could have figured this out. Anyone could probably make this in like Microsoft Paint. To be real clear, this is not a hard graphic to be able to make based on like the single picture of the smoke being done. Some of his other books are also like that. So here we have John Green's An Abundance of Catherine, and what you have is a more kind of like crayon-y or like marker font. Again, marketing info, same author of The Fault in Our Stars. Title, stupid award sticker that you can't take off, which like if you hid I don't know if you could tell. Like, that would be a nice minimalist thing. And these are like pencil crayon drawing pictures that mean things from the story, okay? That kind of thing. Again, anyone could make this. You could do this in Microsoft Paint. If you took the time and really tried to make sure that you did a good job, there are a lot of things that you could do with this. And John Green's book here points to the relevance of the images. So like the simplicity of the image is not what sells it, it's the relevance to its selling. The first one that really kind of deviates from this is Paper Towns. Now this is a cool book cover. Again, you have this, you've got, you know, like angled. Anyone can do that in Microsoft Word. You can get a blurred out perspective picture of a map with your thumbtack in, all that kind of stuff. This one actually shows some book design principles. Chip Kidd talks about this, where if you're going to write a book about an apple, you can show an apple or you can say an apple, but what you don't do is say apple and then show the apple, because that's redundant and people, they're not excited about that. It doesn't get them thinking one further step through for the book cover, and that's how you use them as a marketing item. So this kind of does like Paper Towns, and it's a map which is made of paper. It kind of breaks some of those rules, but still works. And then you have kind of his most famous work, I think, The Fault in Our Stars, which has this really kind of neat graphic where it's got the two clouds, and then it's got, you know, all these different kind of words on the thing, where it's just like reviews on it and whatnot. And yeah, like that's kind of more like John Green's brand and his recognition as a celebrity than it is actually like the book cover. But like, people were waiting for this book. He again used Vlogbrothers to do this. So like, you can make minimalist, very simple covers like that if you have the brand, because all you're doing is trying to represent your brand on the book. Doesn't really have much to do with the story, though it does kind of tie in if you've read the book, that kind of stuff. Then we have a collaboration he did, Will Grayson. This is literally just holographic text on a picture of a stage. You can kind of see the kind of like stage truss and like light fixtures, disco balls. There's a light here, there's lights, and it's kind of blurred out and neat. I found this exact image online and played around with a different part of it, because it's actually quite larger for a book that I was planning on writing, you know, a while. But like, just Will Grayson, and they overlap them, and then everything's in kind of like lowercase, which plays into the you know, the book, and you'll see that too. This is a real fun book. But again, anyone could make this cover. And then finally, his last book, Turtles All the Way Down. Now this one is more artistic. You have this kind of spiral, which plays into the kind of like plot of the book and the character development. And then all the same font. So Turtles All the Way Down, different kind of sizes on some of the letters, but you can play around with this. You can do this book cover in GIMP, which is a free image manipulation software that you can download. This was not hard to do, but it would have been hard to kind of imagine as like a representation for what the book is. I do think that you can't always start with a cover and then write a book for it and stuff like that. Your book cover needs to tie into your book. And that's the key to like all of John Green's books in the YA genre, is all of them tie into the subject matter, as most good books do. When it comes to YA and stuff like that, and I would think there's a bunch of other genres that, you know, you could write in that, like just, you know, plain literary fiction, or like mystery, or like adult fiction, all that kind of stuff. You can make covers like this yourself if you have that kind of artistic mindset, and if you recognize that, yeah, I have an eye for that kind of stuff, and you can mock a bunch of covers up. I would wholeheartedly encourage you to do so, because it's so simple, and it's a great way to save a bunch of money as a self-published author, to be able to do your own cover. What you have to realize, though, is that that's directly proportioned to your ability to kind of execute stuff. So with my own books, I followed a very similar kind of thing, and I've had good reviews on these covers. Like, this is simple, easy cover. This is an image of a road, specifically a chip seal road, which if you've listened to the chapters, it talks about this. It talks about the chip seal and how like it affects the character and stuff like that. Simple lettering. I could probably have got away with like a texture or like a transparency or something like that on the lettering. Same font underneath saying it's a novel, different font for my name for like the branding and stuff like that. Slight grunge edge around, which is common to all three books. Same thing with the sequel, Urban. As opposed to a road, the bridge, this is the bridge that they cross. It's in Edmonton. It's a real place. And they cross that right before the kind of like climax, tragic moment in the book and stuff like that. But same font, same font, same font, so that there's branding kind of between the two. Third one is a picture of a guardrail on a road. Same font, same font, same font for branding, that kind of stuff. And I've had good reviews on those books, and they've worked. People really like the covers, and they did their job at kind of tying in the story to that. Where I think that advice of do a professional cover comes from is when you're doing something that can't be merely translated from real life onto the book page. Book covers, if they are actual pieces of art, or if they require it to be actual pieces of art. I'm thinking kind of like YA fantasy or like hard fantasy, hard sci-fi, all that kind of stuff. When you need a picture of a spaceship that you can't go and take because it's not a real thing. Like I write about high school situations. So if I need a picture from a high school, let's say we were doing something where a locker would have been emblematic of the story, I can go take a picture of a locker. I can't take a picture of a faster than light spaceship and aliens. I can't do that. I can't take a picture of, Mars, though I can get pictures of Mars that I could probably use if I needed to, but they're not going to be the kinds of pictures that I could take if it was something that I could actually go and take the picture of and say, yeah, this is what inspired me to write that kind of stuff. A great example of this is The Wheel of Time. So here we have, now don't follow me, Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time. Hardback, this is the dust jacket, gorgeous fantasy art that wraps around the spine and tells a bit of the story. And it does that. This is a scene from the book that you are going to encounter when you're reading the book. Again, the principle to think is part of my story needs to show up on the book so people are like, I want to read what that story's about. You can't, if you're not an artist that can draw this massive painting that has to be like tailored down to like the dust jacket size or even just the front cover, if you're just going to do that cover, anyone can figure out this text. That is just, a serifed text with capitals, and then they filled in the blue. You could do that on Microsoft Paint. I'm telling you. This guy, you could totally just nix that, and it wouldn't remove anything. This is just, again, marketing info from the publisher. Same thing with this. Simple text. You have white, and then you have gold leaf, which you could do in any image manipulation software, and then the author name here, which is really kind of neat that it's like on the corner, but it allows you to show the story. And those are the elements that he's doing. If you can't make that art, that's when you need a professional. You need an artist who does this kind of art, and you need to give them a scene from the book in order for you to get that scene onto the cover of your book. But if you can do the art, something minimalist and simply text-based and stuff like that, and it's aesthetically pleasing and it's eye-catching and it ties into the story, then you can. That's the divide. That's the divide that you really need to think about. That's the divide where can I take the image from this in its best, from the manuscript in its best form, and get it into an image form, either a picture or a infographic or a text and simple graphic or like a picture with text on it. Can I do that from my manuscript? And if I can't, what's the professional that I need to be able to do that? You can look at, what's another good one? Yeah. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. That is just a picture. It's a picture of a dragon, and then there's some stuff, and then they did some weird stuff with the colors, and then they made the text kind of play with it. So there's certain things that are covering the texture so that it really looks like it's intertwined with the picture. This is a harder thing to do, but it's definitely something you could try to do with a bit of tutorials that are all free on YouTube. You could get away with this. Another great one in that series is The Girl Who Played with Fire. I've actually listened to how this was played. Again, you have the text playing with the images and stuff like that, which is all stuff you can learn to do on YouTube, I'm telling you, with very simple image manipulation software, but it's very simple, slightly shadowed text with kind of like a shine to it, which you can get away with. But like that is the art director's daughter's hair on a photostat machine. That's it. They photocopied her hair in color. It showed up like this. They added the red background. They did this. You can do that book cover. But those aren't really representative of like what's happening in the books. They're meant to be like eye-catching and stuff like that. And that can work for your book. It can totally work for your book. But for the most part, what you're going to find you need is you're going to need an image from your book, and that can be, let's get John Green out here again. That can be like a full art scene that tells that specific part of the story, or it can be just the smoke rising that is a main part of a lot of the different scenes that come out, and people will immediately know what's on the cover after they start reading the book. You can have both those, but it does have to come from inside the book. And if you're the person who can find that image out in the real life, out in the real life, if you can find that image out in real life and then use that to make your book, like, there is nothing fancy about these fonts. These are actually quite boring fonts on Looking for Alaska. This is like just block text. It doesn't play into anything, all that kind of stuff. You can make this book cover, and your book can have just as much shelf appeal as this book. Throughout all this, there is a side of marketing that has to like be reckoned with. Like one of the reasons why John Green's so famous is because he does Vlogbrothers and he's a YouTube celebrity. That ties into how many books he sells, ties into how many books his brother sells, because they've created that kind of following elsewhere. Okay, and you know, same thing with like published authors. Like this is like book 4. Robert Jordan had a couple books leading up to this, so he knew that he could do this. And then you'll see stuff. What's a good example? I don't think I have any books for that. Yeah, you can't really tell that. But you'll have books where it's mostly, especially in like the mystery genre or the thriller genre, you'll have books that are like half the author's name is the title. And that's because it's a marketing thing. So if you don't have that kind of scale, just make a cover that represents your book so that it can become as iconic as Looking for Alaska, so that it can become as iconic as Paper Towns with its big like thumbtack stuck in the map. You want that iconic image, and that iconic image has to come from inside the pages of the book. And if you're capable of doing that iconic image on your own in a clean and professional way that, you know, it doesn't need to be fancy, as we've seen. If you're able to do that, I would highly encourage you to do that so that your story is the thing that can kind of shine forth. But if you write an epic fantasy and you need art like this to kind of fit with the genre, then you got to find yourself an artist, unless you are one. Now, if you are one, that's great. But if you aren't one, don't joke yourself. Don't try to draw something like this. This is, you know, something that took an artist years to get good enough to be able to produce, and that might not be you. But, you know, this was a single photograph of a candle in a black background with some very simple photo manipulation. I guarantee you can do this cover exactly how it's done here. And there's YouTube videos about that kind of thing where they took Patrick Rothfuss, I can't pronounce his name, Name of the Wind, and they recreated it in like Inkscape. Because it's that simple a process of making the exact cover, you know, with all the free tools, all that kind of stuff with those things, and it looks exactly the same, but it's just, you know, a slightly different hooded figure set in the background, a slightly different dead tree, and a slightly different landscape, you know, that kind of stuff. But it looks almost like they're, you know, two parts of the same series. You can get away with that stuff, and there are ways to learn it. So don't be scared of how, don't be scared of how daunting it means, or it can be, to like make a professional cover. You can make a professional cover because stuff like this gets through. What you need to focus on, and the most important thing, is making sure your book has a scene in it that shows up on that cover so that it ties it in, because that's what people are looking when they're looking at covers. It's like, what is this book about? And here you can see, oh, it's a book, and there's medieval people, and there's a wagon, and they're traveling, and they're around a fire, which means they must be traveling somewhere. Oh, it's a journey. I can't wait to read this book about a journey. And this one is a book, it's like smoke. It looks like an extinguished candle, or like you find out it's cigarettes, but like, what's that smoke from? Is something burning? Is something, you know, like, did something happen? And that's what this book's about, something that happened. And that's what draws people in. So focus on that stuff. Focus on taking a scene from your book and putting it into real life. That's my 2 cents on the matter. I know that was kind of like crazy all over the place, video and stuff. But yeah, I do all my own covers for the most part. I'd like to do all my own covers. And there are ways to get yourself into that game that don't require you to be an artist and don't require you to pay what you would have to pay an artist like that to give you a cigarette smoking behind a black background. You might have to pay $1,000 to get a cover this beautiful. If you pay $1,000 to get this cover, you got duped. It's plain and simple. This kind of stuff is rough when it happens to authors, but you can do this kind of thing. If this is what your story needs to get it onto the shelf, and this kind of thing is going to be illustrative of what your story is about, you can do this, and you do not need to pay a professional cover designer to give you this cover. This cover, you could do. This cover, maybe not so much. Maybe you're an artist, maybe you can do it. But I just wanted to encourage you that you can, in fact, do your own covers, and you should not take flack for doing your own covers. You should not feel bad about doing your own covers. Being self-published means that you can put that singular image from your book on the cover, and you have control over that. You have control over making sure that it is an image and not an image with a sticker on it, or 2 or 3. I'll still never forgive the publishers for doing that to The Hate U Give. That was just such a gorgeous, perfect book cover that they ruined, and if you've seen it, you'll know what I mean, and it's horrible, and yeah. So, that's my 2 cents. Get them words in. Hope you guys have a great day.